Yes. Thank you so much for coming back to Sarita Talks. I was just able to bring my good friend Mataka Askari up to date with all the great things we've been doing. We also have some new technology. So that's what I was talking about. Look at us. We are out here. So I really enjoyed these conversations because we have a shared experience, which is incarceration. And so many people in the United States, because as me and you have talked about, 5% of the world's population is incarcerated, and 25% of those individuals are in the United States. So I know that recently you were able to celebrate Malcolm X's birthday. And a lot of people don't know much about him, but he did say by any means necessary. Mataka, tell us about yourself and anything else you want to throw on top of that.
Well, I don't do a lot. I just got a couple of credentials. I got a little bit of experience under my belt. I did 23 and a half years in prison. And it was there that I discovered something that I feel like was the catalyst to change my life. And that was the autobiography of Malcolm X. Very important book. Mm-hmm. One of the things that Malcolm said is that education is the passport to the future. So education takes on multiple forms. You got different types of literacy, different fields of education, but the education that Malcolm X was talking about was the knowledge of self. Yeah. And it all starts with a healthy identity. If you are healthy in your identity, you have the confidence to be able to tackle anything that you encounter, any endeavor that you engage in. And that means academically too. Yeah. Where math, you might have thought that it was once impossible. With the right cultivation, you know that math is solvable like anything else.
Absolutely.
To all of the disciplines.
Yes. So the graft and the pursuit of knowledge, as they say, knowledge is power. Would you agree? Absolutely. So he just discounted himself, and we just got in a whole conversation about how Mataka does this. I have a few certifications. I have a little bit of knowledge. Tell us all the certifications that you have, Mataka.
I have a certified peer specialist credential. I have a batterer intervention prevention specialist credential. I'm certified in habilitation, empowerment, accountability therapy, the only cognitive-based intervention therapy specifically designed for Black youth and adults in the U.S. They also have one for women. I am a CBT life coach and certified group speaker and group facilitator.
And he's also a keynote. So if you want to get Mataka to come and rock your room like a hurricane, he's also a TEDx speaker. We were so blessed to be on the same stage for TEDx. Yeah. So I just want to tell you all that this man is a wealth of knowledge, and he even opened my eyes, because we're talking about education. We're also talking about Malcolm X. His birthday should be celebrated right along with everyone else's. So hopefully next year you're going to go get a proclamation from the mayor.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a great idea.
And everyone else should be doing the same within their city. But let's tie it all back to education. What do those third grade reading scores do here in the state of Missouri?
So I forgot the name of the test. It begins with an M. Excuse me for you can Google it though.
Okay, is it the math
but it's
test?
Nationwide.
Okay.
No, it's it's the name of the process by which they determine how many prison beds they're going to need by third grade literacy rates. And we talked about that. And third grade literacy rates are not just a product of a child's inability to comprehend and understand. Some children do not comprehend or understand because trauma has taken over their brains, and it impedes their ability to learn and regulate their emotions. So if they cannot learn, and we think that it's a learning disability versus a trauma-based problem, then we could be looking in the wrong area to try to understand what's going on, and thus misapply something that could be applied in another area to bring about a solution.
Absolutely.
So third grade literacy rates from 8 to 18, ain't nothing we can do to disrupt the school to prison pipeline, at least that element of it.
And what is so sad is that if these markers are being seen in someone in the third grade, what's the next course of action to change that?
I don't even think they have one.
They don't.
I don't even
think they don't, because if so, we would know that as well. Here's what I'm saying. So in the third grade, you have people that are being diagnosed or put into the box of learning disability, when actually you're saying these are trauma reactions.
It can definitely be a trauma. So adverse childhood experiences, we talked about that.
Poverty. Yes.
Poverty. Do you have a parent that has gone into prison? Have you been physically, psychologically, emotionally, or abused in any other way? Do you have a parent that's struggling with substance use? You know it's a 10-question test, but I really like the Philadelphia expanded ACEs because it
Okay.
takes into consideration some of the things that are going on in our environment, witnessing violence, being threatened or bullied. It takes into account so one of the things that we don't address is adoption, right? With our children. We don't talk about foster care with our children either. And so these are categorized as adverse childhood experiences, actual traumas. And so if you have been impacted by any of these things, and when you come from the community that we come from, it's normalized. Anything that's above a 4 is considered to make you vulnerable to severe mental illness. Man, you know how many people dealing with 4s? I was a 9.
Oh my gosh. I don't even want to know what mine is, but you said bullying, and bullying changes an individual. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
And I don't know what the reasoning is, because I know sometimes people want to assert their own power, or they're nervous, or they're scared themselves. And I remember telling people sometimes, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
No doubt.
Just because you can does not mean you should. And I know that there was a rise in school shootings. This is around the time now we have a little bit of an age disparity, but I remember Columbine, and I was still in high school, and it was something.
When they did.
Yeah, and it was just like, what? And now it's an everyday thing. So, what do you think? Because bullying is a trauma. Do you feel like that trauma exists on both sides, with the bully and the victim?
Absolutely.
Me too.
Most bullies are people who are struggling to find a way in this world, and because they may not be able to feel confident enough to do it academically or athletically, they use whatever strength that they have. Because we live in a culture where I don't care how much money you got, I don't care how good you look, the primary thing in the culture that we're from is respect. Right? And so if you cannot respect me materially because I'm not endowed with those things, then I'm going to respect the best way I know how. And sometimes that manifests in the form of bullying. Also, apart from and sometimes combined with is the fact that a lot of people who engage in bullying are victims of abuse themselves.
Yes. So it's a cycle. It's the cycle of abuse. Okay, now tell us what Malcolm said about this education, and how maybe we can educate our young humans, our young individuals growing up. Tell us.
So I'm a believer that culture is an incubator, right, for identity, healthy identities. I feel like a healthy identity is key. So I feel like a lot of the violence that goes on in our communities is due to a couple of things. Number one is people trying to find their way in the world and gain some type of respect or name. You know, they call it clout chasing in the community.
Oh, okay.
That's what the youngsters
we called it paper chasing, because if you didn't have money, you were nothing.
Yeah, it was
which is what got me in trouble. You know what I'm saying? All money ain't good money. Go ahead.
And so that's one area. When we look at the community, the violence and stuff in the community. Also, when you look at how everything that we have experienced here in Western society has taught us to devalue the lives of our people. We don't care what we value.
Yeah.
You know, we don't mismanage, we don't kill it, we don't injure what we value.
Now just let's break that down. Okay? You love your car, you're not gonna go out and take a baseball bat to it.
Nope.
Okay, you got nice things in your home. You're not going to go break every piece of glass that's in there. Why are we doing that to our own communities?
So what it says is that we don't value each other. And listen, how you value others is a direct result of how you value yourself. Because sometimes people don't see themselves in the proper light. And when you are healthy, you're able to view them through the proper light, even though they're struggling. The judgment is not there.
Yeah.
Their humanity is not taken away.
Right.
You recognize that people are on their path, and you assist them as much as you can.
That's me. Yeah.
Yeah, that is you.
Thank you. That's me. And I was thinking that, like, before I told my secret that I had been to prison, they used to call me the homeless person, or the unhoused, unsheltered person whisperer, because they would be walking by and I'd be like, hey, you want a cup of coffee? Come on in. And I would hold a conversation, because that is a human being. That is a person.
Kindness is so
that could have been me.
Powerful.
It could have been me. And you know, a lot of people don't know that. They don't see that in each other. Now, you were just talking about too our communities and our identities. And I had a conversation. Do you know about natives on the res? and the suicide rate amongst the men. And I was telling the person who I was having this discussion, name me one Native man, because, a lot of people don't know that it's Native. It's not Native American anymore. They were Americans first. It's not Native, or it's not American Indian.
America.
Yeah, it's not American Indian. It's Native. The highest rates of suicides are Native men on the res. And let me tell you, name me one person besides Lou Diamond Phillips that you know is Native identified and that you can find on a television show. That you can find. They are so underrepresented. Have you ever had a job with a Native man or a Native woman? I haven't.
Not that I can remember.
I haven't. So we always talk about our communities and identity. So when
inclusion.
And inclusion too. And I always pick this out. My dad told me this. And we'd be watching commercials, and it's gotten a little bit better. And he said, you'll never see a black man with a white woman with blonde hair. You surely won't, and blue eyes, that skinny and the look. And it really, this is something I think everybody can look at right now. The HIV/AIDS commercials for the treatments. Why is it always a flaming black man? I don't know if flaming's appropriate, but listen, it's coming from a place of love. The person who is very flamboyant, who is Hispanic, you're never going to see Tom, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed white man who is physically fit with his wife Jane,
and he's making that money.
Yes, and he has HIV. Because guess what? There's a Tom out there with HIV. So all of these commercials are set up to show, Hispanic people. Oh, it must be those they're only homosexual. HIV will touch you as a heterosexual all day long, and that's another thing. Like any type of just household commercials that you see every day, look for the relationships if it's a black man, she's got dark hair, because that blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman is the image that they want to protect, and that has been going on for years. Yeah. So it's just
C.W. Griffith, The Birth of a Nation. Check that movie
out.
Oh
my gosh, why would I want to watch what really just spiraled us into terrible, and it was viewed in the White House, and instead,
I think whatever president it was said when he
was it Woodrow Wilson?
Yeah, it was like writing history with lightning.
Yes,
that's what he said,
and it should have been swastikas and lightning bolts, because that's what he really was, putting into practice. And a lot of people don't know that the Klan was an active part of just the formation, the birth of this nation. Absolutely. The birth of this nation. So when you see black people represented on television, and it's always a comedy show that, we're always shucking and jiving. Now, listen, I said, let's not be too militant. And here I go.
Well, it's not. See, listen, let me tell you why, even that word militant, because people have been conditioned to look at militant like it's some type of armed resistance with an impending danger about to occur, an impending doom. Mm-hmm. But what it is an assertive resistance and pushback against ideologies that do not serve people correctly.
That's right.
That's what it is. It is and it's the truth. So it's not militant. These are terminologies that they use to run people away from truths that they don't want people to be familiar with, because the truth makes you free. Freedom frees you from the ability to be controlled and manipulated by other people. That includes your pockets. That includes, they want that money.
Yeah.
And so ain't no doubt, not militant.
That's the way to get us to run from those uncomfortable conversations.
Yes.
Because, people become uncomfortable when you speak the truth, and they always, and I tell people this in so many different ways, don't personalize. Somebody at church and you aren't talking anymore, don't personalize. They might be going through something. At your job, if you got this one boss and she's mean to everybody, it's not just you. Don't personalize. No doubt. So if I'm having a conversation about the birth of a nation and how the Klan, who I know they're all Caucasian men, maybe a few Caucasian women supporters, have really set us up for these commercials that don't represent us as anything but people that need to, hang out, or that we're always dancing and shucking and jiving, or the minstrel show.
Malcolm X's dad.
And, I also found out this, because a lot of times there'll be people that are slipped in that are black as well. That Martin Luther King Jr.'s mother was shot in church and killed.
Wow.
Yes, by a brainwashed black man. So you blew my mind. And I think I did. Yeah, I knew that about Malcolm X. I saw the movie. Yeah.
His dad on the train. But when you
I saw movie.
I'm gonna
Go
show you
ahead.
when you look at Malcolm X's life. Malcolm was a genius. In the 8th grade, they elected him class president, right? They already knew he was a
Nice.
genius. And so the day came up when people are talking about what they wanted to do career-wise when they grew up, and Malcolm X said that he wanted to be a lawyer. And his teacher told him, like, now, Malcolm, now you know that's an unrealistic goal for, and he used the N-word. And so he told Malcolm he should look at something more realistic, like being a carpenter, because he was good with his hands. Malcolm quit school that day. And never went back. And he took a different route to grasp his education. However, it was way more beneficial had he went through school and just had become a lawyer, because he would have been just simply a product of this system and how it teaches you to think. Malcolm was educated outside of this, and it allowed him to realize some stuff within himself that made him a legend as an advocate and a father and as a community activist to this day.
Absolutely, to this day. And I really like that you differentiated between the stay in school, become a lawyer path, or go out and find a different path. Because listen, I would have never in a million years dreamt that one day I would wake up and end up doing 14 and a half years in prison. However, that different path put me to where I am today. And it opened my heart up to different experiences and things I would have never known. So when you talked about lived experience, I've grown up in environments where, you know, my dad was not the best person, God rest his soul.
Adverse childhood experience.
Yes. And my mother was struggling. When he left, he took almost all of our finances with him.
That's poverty. That's
yes. You know what I'm saying? And then my mom was working at nighttime and the daytime. I was left alone. So what is that? Like,
that's an ACE. That's an abandonment.
Yes.
And it's a form. So ACEs don't just manifest, and it's neglect too. So that's an ACE. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then I find a new group of friends and I want to fit in with them. And instead of being bullied, I'm just going to fall right in line. So I basically peer pressure and bullied myself into being one of the crew.
But why though? Because you were searching for an identity and a sense of belonging.
I surely was.
We don't have cultural pockets that we can direct our children to as they're searching for themselves to be able to cultivate them in the proper way. The purpose of education, as Malcolm said when he said that education is the passport to the future, education is designed to raise you from your infancy into the full realization of your potential.
That's right.
And what that means is your potential gives you the ability to solve problems, to heal, to do all that first yourself, and then it extends to the community, right? So let's look at what education does. Does the Western education system produce that in us? Absolutely not.
Well, in us, and who is included in us?
I'm just talking about Black folk.
Exactly. But here's another thing, though. We need to add
not
in
just Black folk, Native.
children.
Listen.
Yes.
So there is a racism aspect to it,
And
there's a classism, and there's a sexism aspect to it.
Very much so.
It's all of that. Man, we live in a society where everything is separated. And the only, I'm going to tell you what, in my opinion, based on my study, and the only thing that unites people is catastrophe.
Wow.
Man, people come together for a few months. I mean, I've seen some miraculous stuff from different people from different walks of life when they see human beings suffering and they need help or their lives are in danger.
True. That is very true. However, let's touch back on how different communities are treated different ways, because there's a lyric by, I'm always quoting my rap lyrics, Lil Wayne. How are we refugees? Hurricane Katrina. How were the people that were hurt and impacted and stuck in New Orleans, how were they refugees and they are American citizens?
It's crazy because I used to tell my partner all the time, I said, man, we was watching Hurricane Katrina. I said, look, listen to the verbiage. I said, when Black folk are trying to find something, they're looting the stores. When it's white folks, they're foraging for supplies. And
God, foraging for supplies.
They're foraging for supplies to survive. Black people, they loot.
Well, they don't have to forage for supplies. They have FEMA. And listen, I said, if Hurricane Katrina would have happened in Martha's Vineyard, it would have been a totally different story.
No doubt.
It would have been a totally different story, Let me just round it out, though, because you have so many good things that you are familiar with and that you are imparting. And I heard something the other day, and I'm going to put you on the spot, that you were in a classroom with kids that had, some behavior issues, and Mataka was going to give up. What happened? Yes. What happened?
It's funny.
Tell us about how these kids get.
And so, and it was a learning moment for me.
Good.
So we had these kids we working with, kind of like a few behavioral issues, a lot though,
Mhm.
and it's a challenge. But and then it always makes me think, because I was like, man, I must have been a handful, because I was. It's like, hey, now that I'm an adult and I can see,
Yes.
I can see me like, man, woo, y'all strong. Shout out to the teachers. Shout out to the teachers.
Good job, teachers.
Yeah. So I didn't feel like we were making the progress and breakthroughs that I felt like we should have.
Mhm.
And so I took it personal and felt like I was failing, because I'm not used to
Taking it
that.
personal.
I wasn't used to that.
Mhm.
And so I called my supervisor and I was like, I think I'm getting ready to quit, because like I'm not seeing what it is that I felt like we were able to accomplish.
Mhm.
She said, you done ran into a difficulty and now you ready to quit. You didn't
Wow.
have it easy since you've been out here, and now you ready to quit.
She
And I
told
was
you.
like, wow, nope, I'm not. Nope.
And how did that go?
We still doing good. They was happy. We was able to make some breakthroughs. Man,
Right.
we provided them. We incentivized a few things for them, and we gave them gift cards. You know, they like to buy them V-Bucks and all that stuff.
Mhm.
It's beautiful to
Yes.
see the joy on a child's face after they have been counted out, but they achieve a goal that you all have, and you reward them for it. It's
Yeah.
a sense of accomplishment for them, and they get something for it.
And aren't you glad you stuck around?
Yeah, they love me, and I love
That's exactly right. And let me tell you, another way for people to bond is heart condition. You know, and I'm not talking about stroke or heart attack. Like, if you have a good heart and you want to help people, it doesn't matter what they look like. And I feel like a lot of times people have the intention of, well, you know, I wish I knew some Black people. I just don't know where to find them. Or, you know, I mean, that's true. And or they just, you know, don't know how to get tapped in and how to get connected. What would you recommend,
I
Mataka?
would recommend that people who want to help, it's different ways.
True.
Some people don't want to be out there or want to be known, and they have the finances to be able to contribute to the people doing the work. It's a lot of grants out here, right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of people who have skill sets who
Mhm.
may not be able to fit the criteria to get grants, but their work and their experience, right, represents their capability to do stuff in an impactful way.
That's
And
right.
so we need that. We need if people can donate or volunteer skills. Maybe we want to do some
Mhm.
commercials or some songs with the kids in the community.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah.
Anything that we could do to be able to help people. People may have other time that they can, you know,
Mhm.
we need health screenings in the community. Get with the sister.
I love it when he said health screening. So a lot of people have specialized industries, specialized businesses, specialized talents that someone in a community that doesn't look like yours might not have access to. So as you hear the things that we are talking about, think of where you can fit in. Think of how you can help. Think of how Mataka and the words that came out of his mouth about education, that you can help to steer someone in the right direction. And I also want to touch on reinforcing people through incentives, because if you grew up with money in your household and you got good grades, you most likely would get something. You know what I'm saying? And that is not even an option for a kid to look forward to Christmas anymore.
No, we
So-
punish for behavior that we say deviates from our rules, but we do
Mhm.
not reward, right?
Right.
And so my thing is the punishment, the reward has to be as equally as fitting as whatever the punishment is, right?
Mhm.
And so when we start, so one of the things that I want to do, if we can ever get the money to do it, because I believe
Okay.
again, culture, when you see yourself and your history in a healthy light, and you realize that you part of that legacy, man, that can have a transformative effect on you. I've seen it. Multiple people. Malcolm X was a prime example.
Mhm.
I wanted to be able to do these trivia things with a bunch of young people in the community. Who invented the stoplight? Who invented the gas mask? Who invented the washing machine? People don't even know Black people invented that.
Yeah.
There would be 1 million traffic accidents every day had it not been for Garrett Morgan. He invented the stoplight.
And that, you know what, this is information that people don't have. So you want to put together a trivia for kids.
Yep, and then we find a way to reward them, like we have. So the idea was to give out. Me and the brother of one of my guys, Supreme, he said we can give $2 bills out. Every question you answer, like we're gonna have hundreds of questions.
Mhm.
And so if you don't know, what this does is also motivate you to study, even if it's a YouTube clip. You're getting information, you plant the seeds.
Mhm.
And so we was thinking about just having like hundreds of little questions. and rewarding children $2 a piece.
That would
we
be
need
wonderful.
money to do that, though, man. And could you imagine? No, $2 ain't nothing. That's a cup of coffee at break time.
Absolutely.
But it could be the catalyst to transform a child.
Well, then that's what we're going to talk about next time, is how we get those catalysts, how we get those transformational activities going within our community, and where you can donate. So we're going to get together, we're going to have a powwow, and we're going to figure out how to do that. But before we go, Mataka, I want you to tell us what by Malcolm X in that book was the most transformational statement, or what in the book just really grasped. I know there's so many, but can you one or two?
When he started to have the realization after he came into contact with Islam, he started to have the epiphany and the realization that the information that he had been fed had not been true.
Right.
So
that we are not inferior.
When you discover the truth of who you are, and the blinders are taken off of your eyes, you see the world differently, and you see yourself in relationship to it. And the one thing that it did for me, after it woke me up, the one word that I can describe that it did for me, and it permeated all areas of my being: empower.
Ooh, yes. Well, on that note, thank you for tuning in to Sarita Talks. I'm supposed to say like, subscribe, and share. You know, if you wanted to, you would have been done it. No, I'm just kidding. Please. Yeah, like, subscribe, and share. But also take something from this, do something with it. And when we come back with Mataka, we're going to have a way to get something like this imparted in our neighborhood. And we're going to need help. We're going to need your help. Thanks for tuning in.